Hello, I'm Vincent, and this is that a cat? Oh my god! Hello, I'm Vincent, and this is my local history project for the A-Push final. My research question for the final is what is the significance of Asian American influence in Flagstaff's history? So, personally, I've only lived in Flagstaff for about 4 years, and as an Asian, I am quite curious about Asian American history in this town and if Asian involvement made an impact. I wanted to know how Asian Americans made their mark on this town. And as it turns out, my connection to Flagstaff doesn't end at just moving here 4 years ago. Before I moved here, and before I was even born, my mom migrated to Flagstaff from Thailand almost 30 years ago and lived here for 8 years before moving out. Let's take a step back. Where did everything begin? And was Asian involvement even vital in the first place? So, from what we know, the first Asians to move into Flagstaff were the Wang Jun family in 1915. Du Yu, the mother from China, was able to migrate to the U.S. thanks to Wang Jun, the father. And Wang Jun somehow obtained the papers to bring her in during that time period. And this was when the Chinese Exclusion Act was in full force. This was early 1900s, and I'm sure it was a grueling process to get all those necessary papers during that time. In Flagstaff, Wang Jun and Du Yu gave birth to 8 children. They ran a humble laundry business, and although there were a few discriminatory laws during the time, the people in Flagstaff treated the family quite nicely. From both oral interviews of Wang Jun's sons, James and Bill, each son testified that they were treated just like any other kid when they were growing up. Interviews with other people from this time corroborate the equality Chinese residents faced in Flagstaff. So it seems things were surprisingly equal in Flagstaff, even during this time period. And the family also garnered respect from the community for having good players on Flagstaff High School sports teams. Their laundry business was also sustainable, and they even employed a few Hispanic workers. So it seems this Wong family made a pretty positive impact on the community, as well as fitting right in with everyone else. I believe that this family was important to making a good first impression on Asian American residencies in Flagstaff. Although, confusingly, another completely separate Wong family seems to have made their own mark in Flagstaff. This is a Wong family that moved in later after the Jun Wong family. There's a lot of Wongs. And this Jun Wong family would be the family that had kept the Grand Canyon Cafe open for over 70 years, even though it's closed now. The cafe was open in 1942 and was run by Albert Wong and his siblings. The business was later passed down to Albert's son, Freddie Wong, and he kept that business running until 2017, until some investors came in and handled the business from there. Freddie and Tina just kind of wanted to retire from the whole restaurant thing. So the investors had the restaurant open for like less than a year, and then it silently just closed down shop in 2018. But while the cafe was still open, they were pretty popular in the community, and it was a pretty good hotspot for tourists to come in and eat. And there were a lot of locals. They served American meals and Chinese cuisine. Pretty diverse stuff. But now Freddie Wong and Tina Wong are out there in their farm in Camp Verde, just doing farm things, and they're staying close with family in Phoenix. And another documented part of Asian involvement in Flagstaff is another Wong family. There are a lot of Wongs in Flagstaff, apparently. There are 3 different Wong families that happen to be well documented in Flagstaff's history. It was kind of weird. All right, so this Wong family follows the story of a Chinese immigrant who moved from a small village in southern China to San Francisco in 1948. This guy originally named him Toon. How do you pronounce that? Hold on. I got this. Him. Boom. No, no! I have no internet! Dinosaur game. My previous high score is a 1050. Oh my god, I'm bad at the game. Anyway, ignoring that embarrassment, let's get on with, I guess I'm just gonna say him tune, alright? I'll just say Him Toon. This guy, originally named Him Toon, had worked in his sister's Chinese restaurant in Winslow, learned to cook, was drafted into the army, and married his wife in Hong Kong before eventually bringing his 2 sons to Flagstaff to open a restaurant in the Afton House. In the early years of his time in America, Wong Him Toon changed his name to Timothy Wong to embrace his new home in America. Timothy, just like the other Wongs that came before him, and there are a lot of Wongs that came before, was a valued member of the community in Flagstaff. His restaurant served the best Chinese food in town, or at least according to his youngest daughter, Beverly. Not only did Tim bring his culture with his cooking, he was greatly influenced by American culture as well, and this brought many long-lasting friendships with regulars at the restaurant, leading the Wong family to even consider the regulars as family. These regulars would attend, like, birthday parties, weddings in the family. So, great friends. Great little community forming here with just this little restaurant. Tim's story is a little heartwarming one on his effect on Flagstaff, and he was really well documented by his descendants in the form of a blog/website. All right, what's next? Oh, finally, a guy who isn't a Wong. Here we have a Japanese ceramic sculptor. His name is Yukio Yamamoto, and he's a master sculptor born in Hyogo Prefecture, Japan, because he's Japanese. I honestly can't find much about this guy. There was like one little website about him, but I had to like pay to learn more about him, which kind of sucked. He certainly left his mark on Flagstaff in his own little way. He spearheaded the construction of a Tozan-style Noborigama kiln in cooperation with NAU. The kiln is basically a very Is that a cat? The kiln is basically a very traditional style kiln for ceramics that was introduced to Japan from China in the 5th century. So some pretty old stuff here. And the kiln that Yukio built, it's actually the largest Noborigama, or climbing kiln, in the US, and it's the only Tozan-style Noborigama outside of Asia. Yukio never lived in Flagstaff, but he had some close pottery friends here, and that includes Don Bendel. Don Bendel's a professor in ceramics at NAU, or, well, he was at the time, and he's also the guy who brought Yukio in for 6 months to build the kiln. So, all in all, this kiln brought some very interesting aspects of Yukio's culture and was able to make Flagstaff a more distinct area for the art of ceramics. And finally, there's my mom. She's not a Wong, by the way. To introduce you, my mom had previously lived in Flagstaff almost 30 years ago. She married a white man in Thailand, and she just moved to Flagstaff to live with him. And no, it wasn't for, like, economic opportunity or anything. Although 30 years ago isn't very long in the grand scheme of things, I decided it would be worth a shot to interview her on her experience, as it would also teach me some new things that I never even knew about her. When did you move to Flagstaff?
I moved to Flagstaff in May 2nd, 1995. I was 22.
Where did you work?
First job, I worked at a Thai restaurant. It was the first Thai restaurant in Flagstaff, Dara Thai restaurants.
What was Flagstaff like?
Flagstaff was still really small. A lot less building than it is now. You know, people were very nice. I do not have any problem at all, no.
She describes it as small, but during that time there was a population of 53,000 as compared to 77,000 today.
There was a few of Chinese restaurant. There was only one Thai restaurant back then for quite a long time.
How long did you live in Flagstaff before moving out?
So I lived in Flagstaff for 8 years, and then I moved to Prescott.
So after living in Prescott, she eventually moved to New Mexico. She met my dad in New Mexico. Then she went to California, and then back to Flagstaff. Why did you come back to Flagstaff?
Because Flagstaff actually is a nice little town, and that we're doing a restaurant business, and so Flagstaff is tourist town, so it's perfect business for Flagstaff.
Are there any other Asian-related things that you can remember?
There's one Asian market when I first moved here called Lee Wong, and I was friend with them too.
So I did a little bit of research on Lee Wong, and it looks like they were an Oriental market that opened in late 1994. Although it's closed today, this story indicates the existence of a growing Asian community in Flagstaff.
Thank you. Later. Loved you.
So yeah, that was my mom. Isn't she just the best? I wrote that in the script, and you know what? I'm proud of it. She is the best. I love her. I'm not keeping that in. Yeah, it just looks like my mom was treated well in Flagstaff, just like any other Asian I talked about in this video. There is one more point I would like to mention, but I am completely unable to prove it, because I'm bad at researching or something. Mr. Bro mentioned that Chinese workers were made to build downtown Flagstaff. And it is difficult to research as no documents or any source online seems to be mentioning the construction of Flagstaff at all. But it is worth mentioning that the speculated first Asian family to even move to Flagstaff was around 1915, which was the Wang Jun family. Or was it the Wang Jun family? I wrote this script. And construction of Flagstaff's downtown area seemed to happen in around early 1890s. Meaning that there wasn't even any Asians around to even build it. And yet another point of discussion would be about this foreboding excerpt. Excerpt? How do you pronounce that? Excerpt. Foreboding excerpt. What? from a Flagstaff newspaper that I found in the mini documentary video of the first Wong family.
There was a group put together, an anonymous group, called themselves the Committee, and they were trying to intimidate people into leaving town. It was very vague threats, but we do have the records in the newspaper.
So in that clip, Sacha mentions that there was some sort of committee in Flagstaff that was like really anti-Chinese. I'm not sure where Sacha Siskonen, in parentheses, if that's even her real name. What is going on with this script? Anyway, I don't even know where Sacha found this newspaper because I can't seem to find anything about it on the Klein Library website. And just like the last point, Asians weren't even in town at this time. It seems something sus is happening here. Perhaps it wasn't very well documented, or maybe some kind of Asian-related incident happened and then is being covered up in Flagstaff's history because it was so bad and something crazy happened. But that's just a theory. A history theory. I would love to find out more about these mysterious tidbits of information I stumbled upon. Maybe I'm just bad at conducting research. I don't know. You tell me. Research it for me. For free. All in all, I would personally say that Asian American involvement in Flagstaff has made a positive influence on the community. Although Asian involvement wasn't a vital part to Flagstaff's growth, assuming that the whole conspiracy theory I had is not true, communal involvement, such as sharing Asian culture, becoming respectable members of the community, working from humble businesses, and changing Flagstaff's culture and reputation, are all what makes I don't want to say that whole sentence again. Are all what makes Asian American history in Flagstaff just that much more significant, even if it wasn't really all that significant in the first place.